Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Zeta. Welcome to The Productive Attorney. This is the podcast where we talk about things that make you more productive so that you can do things outside of the law and don't have to practice law all the time. Today, we're going to talk about something that was suggested to me by one of my staff members, and that is empathy and how that relates to the practice of law. He had a potential new client come in, and he was speaking to the potential new client. And my staff member is an amputee. He had blood clots and had to have his leg amputated. At first, they thought they were going to just up to his foot, but ultimately they had to amputate his leg just below the knee. And he was interviewing a mother of a individual who had gone to the hospital and went through almost the same experience that my staff member went through, except in this case they didn't catch the infection in time. They did amputate the individual's leg, but ultimately he passed away. My staff member was telling me that as he was working on this case, he was starting to well up. He was starting to cry, and he wanted to know, how is it that we as lawyers don't empathize, or what can he do as a staff member to not to identify so much with the client that he can't do his job. And he said, you need to do a podcast on empathy with lawyers because I just don't know how you all do that. And so I started thinking back over 32 years of practice, what happens with empathy as lawyers? What are we like? Do we lose our empathy? And what kind of impact does that have? And I also looked at studies that are out there on this issue. And so got several thoughts. I'm in Tarrant County, Texas, and we have what's called the bench bar. And we had a mediator by the name of Beth Krugler, and she had us come out, and she did Myerson-Briggs tests on everybody. And she set up 64 tables because that's how many results you can get with this personality test and this kind of feeling test. And she had all the lawyers go to the 64 tables of which their kind of personality trait came out. And I went to the table, and my table was jam-packed with people. And it turns out my table that I was sitting at had people that scored 0 on empathy. And the joke at the time was we talked to each other for about 30 seconds, and then we stopped talking because we didn't care about each other. But in the 30 seconds that we did talk to each other, we kind of agreed that we should all have a sign on our desk for when our clients come in that says, "It sucks to be you." And that is just, it was weird. How is it that so many people don't have empathy? And at the other side of the room, the high level empathy, there was 2 ladies sitting at a table. They both practiced family law, and they were clearly people who got, very empathetic for their clients and felt very good, connected to their clients. And I thought at that time, what is it about lawyers that make us not be empathetic? Why can't I be like those 2 ladies over there? And I have a lot of thoughts on that. I have another example, though, during the law of when empathy, similar to Renee, came in. My father's from Iran, and so I have kind of a soft place in my heart for those from Iran or that part of the world. And I had a client when I was a young associate who I had done some just general legal work for, and unexpectedly he came in and he went in a conference room, and the staff came and told me, he's here. I said, "What's it about?" They said they don't know. I go into the room, and he says, "I don't have a will, and my wife just passed away." And then I just broke down. And he reminded me so much of my father. And I'll never forget, he just said to me, "I can't believe she's gone. She just brought me tea yesterday." And I for whatever reason, that stuck in my heart, and for 30 years has just kind of haunted me. I didn't have the tools to say the right thing or do the right thing or help this gentleman at this particular time. Yesterday I spoke with a young lady who's going through medical school, and she has an ER emergency room rotation, and she was talking about how a child died right in front of her and how it killed her, and she doesn't understand why everybody around her didn't have the empathy that she did. It just ate her up so much inside. And I got to thinking that, the first year of medical school is very, very difficult. The first year of law school is very, very difficult. And you also have in the military, the boot camp is very, very difficult. And I think there's something connected to all of those, and that is we as professionals, whether it be a lawyer or a doctor or a soldier, we have a job to do. And that job necessarily requires us to take away our feelings and to analyze the situation without feelings of the human being involved. A doctor knows that they might have to do sew up something or do something that's create tremendous amount of pain on their patient. They have to remove that feeling that they're going to hurt that patient, and they're going to have to figure out how to do what they need to do to get the result. Obviously, in military, you've got to figure out how to kill someone else, the ultimate act of killing someone else. And boot camp teaches you how to do that. It takes away your empathy. It strips you of that. And in law school, we have to analyze legal cases without getting so sucked in and feeling about it. And that's what's called think like a lawyer. And so you go to law school to think like a lawyer. And part of that is it takes away your empathy, and it causes confusion, I think, for law students. They change and they don't understand how they're changing, and they start losing their feelings towards their fellow human beings, and it's disconcerting when that happens. I will tell you that what COVID has taught me, and what I think it's taught everybody, is that when you don't have human interaction and you don't have someone that you trust and know and can let down your guard from being doctor, lawyer, soldier, whatever it is in your life that requires you to lose that empathy, when you don't have that outlet to close friends or even mental health professionals to have that interpersonal contact and that one-on-one face-to-face contact where someone else is empathetic towards you and what you're going through. I think most people feel really good when they can communicate an issue that they're going through in their lives and have someone on the other side who they know and they trust hear you and understand you and empathize with you and even offer suggestions for you. And I think we as lawyers lose that sometimes. I think a great example of that right now is our Texas Supreme Court, who I was struck in a decision on just day before yesterday. They, as I've talked in recent podcasts, they decide in the defendant's side 90% of the time. And John Grisham had a whole novel about how in, I think it was the Mississippi Supreme Court, in a fictional sense, that a justice, the swing justice on a big issue, all of a sudden turned his vote when it happened to his family. The problem that someone was hurt and it affected his family, and he suddenly got empathy towards what the plaintiff was. Well, this Texas Supreme Court decision the other day took away a multi-million-dollar verdict, and they used the term, while the case is, quote, undeniably, close quote, tragic. And I thought, why did you have to put the word undeniably in there, right? Because technically what you're doing is you're denying that it was tragic by going ahead and taking away the verdict that you're doing, and you're leaving a family without compensation, without recompense for the injuries that occurred that could have been because of these individuals. That word undeniably kind of struck me. And so, you start thinking, okay, well, we go to law school and we have all this empathy removed, and like all these lawyers in this Myers-Briggs test have no empathy. Where is the place then if you've been taught to have all your empathy taken away? Where's the place that you've got to get that skill, exercise that muscle, and really have true empathy? And one of the places is with your clients, and especially in your initial interviews. As I just said, it's great when a person in a position to help you, and we as lawyers are in a position to help our clients. It's great when they're heard. I think when you are talking to your client and you say something to them and they nod their head like, yeah, I get that. That's good feedback from you that you're being empathetic to what they're going through. And I look for those verbal or those cues that I can see. Visual cues is the word I was looking for. I look for those visual cues because sometimes it's difficult for me to really hear in the voices or to tell whether or not I'm truly being empathetic to what they're going through because I'm trying. I really want to be. Remember, a lot of times we're attorneys and counselors. Now, we're not mental health professionals, but we do counsel people, and we have to do that. There's also empathy that's needed in negotiation. I think when you're negotiating with the other side, you have to let them know you understand and feel for what the other side is going through. You can't just dismiss their feelings, especially if you've gone through, and I have a mediation course, a negotiation course. There is always in mediation a period of venting. The one side wants to vent, the other side needs to vent, and you need that. I had that growing up with my children, where we would be at the dinner table, and they would be just upset about something, and every once in a while, my wife, who is 100 times more empathetic to me and 100 times better in those situations than me, would step in with her empathy and would try and identify and solve the issue that the child was saying. Me, with my lack of empathy, would say, sweetheart, I don't think that he needs that right now. What I see is someone who's venting. Maybe he just needs to vent. And every once in a while, our sons would point to me and say, that's what I need, Mom. But then a lot of times they would need what Mom was willing to offer, and that was the empathy and the nurturing and the caring. And I think there is some of that in the parent relationship as well. But empathy can only go so far, and you as a person, as an attorney, you cannot have so much empathy that you take on your client's problems. If you took on and felt and absorbed and just made it part of your being, all your client's problems, you wouldn't be able to sleep, you wouldn't be able to eat, you wouldn't be able to analyze it correctly. You have to have a lack of empathy. You can't always think about the feelings associated with it. You have got to be at times cold and analytical. And I kind of think that the rules of professional responsibility, our disciplinary rules, are set out so that lawyers can have a check. Like, okay, I'm not empathetic. I'm a warrior. I'm going forward, and I'm going to do all the things that I need to do. When is it that I just get so cold and so set in my ways that I've gone too far? And I think we've got to have a set of rules of professional responsibility to say, okay, you can't just be cold-hearted and go, do all these things that, it's just gone too far ethically. There's this issue of artificial intelligence right now, and there are abilities to analyze cases that are out there and judges' decisions that are out there and come up with an answer that, hey, you take the human side out of it and just analyze it down and get the brief together. I think that works like in a federal court setting, but I think it can get you your answer that way. But I think there still also needs to be a mix of empathy involved. Now, I think with respect to that, I don't know when artificial intelligence is going to be able to get empathy, and I think that's one of the things that makes us unique as humans, is that we can empathize with other people. The other thing was critical back with George Floyd, also with the Me Too movement, is you have to be empathetic to those of a different race. You have to be empathetic to those of a different gender. All the things in Title VII, all the protected groups. I believe that we as human beings have to have empathy towards people who are different than us and try as best we can to put ourselves in their shoes. And as an attorney, there's a legal side of that, but just as a human being, as an attorney, we have that empathy stripped from us, and so we actually have to we have to go ahead and consciously try and find that empathy for that other group, and identify as best we can with the other group, so that we can just get a feel for what they're feeling. And I will say, based on the training and based on what I do every day, from time to time that gets difficult. That gets difficult to put yourself in these other person's shoes. And so you just have to, in my opinion, this is just me, what I do is I have to constantly check myself to make sure, I've heard the term check your privilege, but I have to just check myself and make sure that I understand that this other group is going through things that I can't understand. And so while I can't put myself in their shoes, I can sure step back and let them express themselves and go forward with their lives without me doing anything stupid, and then on top of that, trying to identify with what that group is going through. Very difficult in this age and time, with social media and with everything like that. Those are areas where you have to be very careful. I think empathy is interesting with judges. Judges are similar in that they have to listen and they have to be empathetic to the case at hand, but they've got to make a decision. And the decision has to take out a certain amount of the human element. I will tell you where I have seen empathy with judges, though, is where lawyers will come in and they will tell the judge straight up, hey, judge, I've had this real problem. In my life, I've had a problem. The greatest, that for me, I had a situation where when my father passed away, and I told the clerk of the court, they're here in Tarrant County, a wonderful, wonderful lady, and I told her I happened to have a trial and 2 hearings set in that court in the next 2 weeks, and I called her and I said, look, my father's passed away, and I need just a week. If you could postpone these for a week. And she said, my father passed away a couple of years ago. You're going to need more than a week. And lo and behold, what came through was 60 days of postponement. She put everything off for 60 days, and I needed it. She knew what I needed before I needed it, and I will always be grateful to her for that empathy. It was a moment of kindness in one of the darkest times of my life, and so to have someone do that for you is tremendous. And I've seen judges do that. Now, on the flip side, as an attorney, if you're appearing before a judge, don't lie. Just don't say something that's not true. I recall a lawyer who came in and she was late to the hearing, and she said, Judge, I'm sorry, the traffic from Dallas was really bad, and I apologize for being late, because the judge was kind of chewing on her a little bit for that. And about 15 minutes later, another lawyer shows up, and he shows up for the hearing, and he's there early for his hearing. And the judge calls out, hey, Mr. So-and-so, welcome to the courtroom. How was your trip from Dallas? And he said, Judge, it was great. There was no traffic anywhere. And it was clear that they'd come a very similar route. And I could see the look on the lawyer's face who had not told the truth to the judge. And you just can't do that. You can't lie. I don't ever lie to the judge. I always come clean when it's an issue on the judge. And I have said to the judge, I've messed up. We screwed up, and I'm sorry. And most of the time, judges will, if it's not prejudicial to the other side, judges will help you, and they will be empathetic towards you as an attorney. But whatever you do, don't lie. I think in mediation, it's very interesting as how empathy works. It's multifaceted when you're in mediation in a litigation setting. You've got to have empathy in your room with your client. I'm imagining a traditional mediation where you're in a room with your client, the other side's in their room with their client, and the mediator's going back and forth. You've got to exercise empathy while you're talking to your client. Yes, I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. I understand it. I appreciate it. But you have to not have empathy as you analyze the case. And as you make your moves as a negotiator, you have to move that, and you have to be cold-blooded, and you have to start thinking about the way the numbers go. And you need to understand what is going on in the other side, in the other room on mediation. I will tell you, the group that has very little empathy is insurance adjusters. So I've been in a room with an insurance adjuster on the defense side in my career, and I've been in the opposite room and they're an insurance adjuster, and they have no empathy. They are looking at this case strictly in dollars and cents. They could care very little about your client. There are occasions where the facts are so strong that they can have some empathy, or at least express some for your client, and that can reflect in the offers that are made. And I've seen that before. You've got, use the term true believer. Is the other adjuster a true believer or not? Are they they don't care? That means no empathy at all, in my opinion. A true believer is someone who just doesn't care. No matter what you say, what you do, what your facts are, your cases, we're going to analyze it analytically, and we're going to pay the lowest amount we can pay. There are other adjusters who understand the situation, who can empathize with opposing counsel or the other side, and they can come out and adjust their offers accordingly. Those without empathy, when you're on the plaintiff side, are very frustrating. The true believers are very frustrating. And sometimes the only way that you can not get those true believers is take them to trial and get verdicts. As an employer, you have to have empathy. If you are an attorney who has a legal assistant or a paralegal, or you run your own office, or you run your own section, you've got to have your fingers on the pulse of the people that work for you, and you have to have empathy to what they're going through. You need to know what's going on, basically, generally, in the lives of your staff and of that, so that they know that you understand what they're going through and that you're acting accordingly. I always pay attention to what it is that my staff needs, to what it is that I think can help them, flourish as parents, as spouses, and as employees. What is it they need? I mean, most time it's money, right? And so that's number one, but it's not always money. Hey, I've got to go pick up my son or my daughter, and I didn't know. Boom, no problem. All you need, let me know. I'm going to say yes. We've generated a level of trust between us. If you need something, you are going to get it. You are not going to come to me and ask me, and have me say no. You understand your job and you do your job. My philosophy in that is, I've heard of these law firms that when people are working at home have cameras facing out towards the lawyer to watch them. You don't have any empathy towards your employee when you do that. You don't trust them. You don't believe that they're going to do what they're going to do. And in my case, I hire people. I trust them. We have no time clock. You come in when you come in, you leave when you leave. If you're constantly late, we're gonna have a discussion about it. What is it in your life that makes you late? And if it's something where I just don't get up, okay, well then we're gonna stay later. You come earlier, or come later, stay later. How does that work? That works great. Okay, good. Off to the races. The other thing is you have to have empathy and knowledge that your employee's going to do their job. You give them the tools to do their job, and they go do their job, and then you just need to get out of the way. Let those people do their jobs. Let the staff do their job, and then when they need help, you give them the help, whether it be equipment or money or time or whatever they need. Give them what they need and have empathy for their lives. And if they're going through something, if they're really going through something, then give them the time and the expertise that they need. If they need counseling, if they need anything, that's what you have to have real empathy for the people that work for you. You really do. And if you do that and treat them better than almost you treat yourself, then your staff will work hard for you. And it's not to me to me, that's almost like family. I mean, to me, you have to go ahead and just, it's not to get better production out of them. It really is to help them in their lives. I can't, I empathize very strongly with the people that work for me. Finally, I think I want to talk about compartmentalizing. We hear so much and we see so much as attorneys, and we have things that we would like to get people to empathize with us when we want to tell them what's happening in our practice or our lives. But we can't. We have attorney-client privilege. We have sensitive negotiations. We have things going on that we cannot tell other people about so that they can empathize with us. And that hurts, and that creates some loneliness that we talked about before in attorneys, and creates some mental health issues with attorneys because we really can't express to other people what we're going through. And we've lost kind of our ability to understand and empathize with what people in our life are going through. And so that also tends to lead to a little bit of emotional loneliness and difficulty there. And so while you do have to compartmentalize, while there are certain areas where you can't, where you just can't let it out, can't say anything, can't do anything about it, you've got to find it. And that's where friends come in. That's where family comes in. For me, that's where athletics come in, where fitness comes in. It allows you to get that stress out in another way that can help you out. Sometimes that lack of empathy, the ability not to express or talk to other people, comes out in bad ways, and that's overeating, drinking, poor nutrition, poor sleep habits, drugs, alcohol, that sort of thing. So empathy is really important in law, and it has a lot of diverse aspects. And if you really want to get into it, go on Google Scholar, look up empathy in law students or empathy in lawyers, and there are hundreds of articles out there that talk about it, but none of them seem to have a real answer. It's a very squishy, dynamic, soft area that a lot of people are looking at, a lot of people studying. I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and have a great week. Thanks.